So we're gonna talk today about, we're taking a break from model creation. We're gonna talk about how to create views, right? We talked a little bit about that last time, right? Duplicating views. Okay. So we're not gonna, maybe I'll review that just a tiny bit, but what I would like to talk about is how we can create call-out views, right? So things like enlarged floor plans and detail views, and I want to talk about setting your displays. So we'll talk about view templates a little bit today. I want to show you how to create interior and exterior elevations, and we'll talk about sections. Okay, so tonight, this class is going to be about creating other types of views, essentially. And I know I'm making everybody crazy, right? Especially Paul T, WT, by not getting to floors quite yet, but we'll get to, right? Oh, you're on the roof. Okay, the roof.
Roof was the issue.
Okay, that's right. But we will get to that. We'll do that on Wednesday, right? So we'll get to that on Wednesday, and that'll just be our topic. So I think if we start a little bit early, right? And I've asked Naima if that would be okay. We'll see if she responds soon. We can start a little early, that way we can end before it gets too late. So you can go see your sweethearts. Okay, let's talk about creating views, right? Ready. Okay, so I want to remind you that when we're working in Revit, we're working with a model, right? And the way that we view the model allows us to see different things in the model. Like when we're looking at the floor plan, it's a floor plan view of the model, right? The other pieces of the model haven't gone away. We're just looking at it a certain way, okay? And there's a lot of different ways to look at the model, right? And so I want to show you how to generate those today, and I want to show you how they organize in the file structure over here as well, okay? So I'm going to go to my main level floor plan over here, right? Here's our lovely main level. I guess let me just stop real quick. Does anybody have any other questions up to this point? Any struggles on your assignments at all? Okay.
I just saw in the assignment, the one we do tomorrow, like some DWG file. Did I miss something?
That was probably a typo.
It says like the DWG that's linked to our.
Oh, that's old. Sorry, that is a typo. Don't worry about that. Don't worry about that. Yep, don't worry about that. Good question. Okay. All right. So let's talk about creating some more views. And I'm going to get rid of this one view, right? Okay. I think what we'll start off with is some plan views, the different types of plan views that we can generate. Okay. So things like enlarged floor plans and detail callouts. All right. For those of you that weren't here, I want to remind you that you can duplicate any view that is in your project browser. All right. So what that means is that, for example, if I'm using kind of the main level for a dimension plan and I only want to show dimensions, right? I could right click on this. I could rename it, something like, let's see, main level dimension plan, right? Would you like to rename the corresponding views? Yes. Okay. So now that becomes, in fact, let me move my browser a little bit more. That becomes our dimension plan, right? And I will show the architectural template, the floor plate, right? The walls, the doors, the windows, and I will add dimensions on that floor plan. Great. Now, I don't want those dimensions to show on maybe my finished floor plan, right? But I do want to see this architectural boundary on my finished floor plan, right? So to do that, I can right-click. I can choose Duplicate View with Detailing, and it will create another view. I already have one here, so I'm not going to reduplicate it. And I can click on that. I can right-click and hit Rename, right? And then I can add all my finished floor plan junk on here, okay? Now, if I want to take this dimension and click on it and hit Delete, okay, it deletes it on the finished floor plan view, but over here on the dimension floor plan, that remains intact, right? So what's nice about separating these floor plans out, these floor plan views out, is that I can add sheet-specific detail, sheet-specific work, and have it be different on all the different floor plans, okay? We also talked about how we can add sheets or views to our sheets down here, right? Here's our floor plan, click, right? There's our floor plan. To add a floor plan view to a sheet, and this is amazing compared to AutoCAD, right? I click on, let's delete this off, in fact. Delete. I click on the view that I want to add to the sheet. I click and hold my mouse. I drag it over. I let go, click, and there is my floor plan right on my sheet, right? Which is lovely. It's very easy. All right, so let's talk about how, you know, we when we start our drawing, we have a few kind of out-of-the-box drawings that are available to us, right? We have floor plan views here. We have a ceiling plan for every floor plan view. We have a 3D view. We have building elevations, right? North, east, south, and west. We have all of those available to us. But there are a lot of other views that we can generate in Revit, right? Using these items, okay? I'm going to go to my main level dimension plan, all right? And is this the bathroom right here in this floor plan? Where's the bathroom at? Yeah, right here, okay. So there are going to be certain areas in every floor plan where you want to create a larger, you know, the view you want larger, right? So you want to have a larger scale floor plan. And what I mean by that is, you know, this is at, you know, we have it on off scale, 3/16 of an inch is equal to a foot. And when I view that on my sheet, AE 101, it looks about that size, right? And this will allow me a certain level of detail, okay? But there are certain areas in the plan that require a little bit more detail, which means we need to zoom in a little bit closer so that we can reveal that detail and add dimensions and notes and different things to show that adequately, right? So that whoever's building it can see it a little bit better, essentially. Those are called enlarged floor plans, okay? So enlarged floor plans are a call-out in Revit. And the call-out is going to be generated on the floor plan you want to view at a larger scale. I'm going to go to my main level dimension plan, click, click. Right, here I am. If I want to create an enlarged floor plan of the bathroom, right? Bathrooms are good examples of enlarged floor plan areas, or stairs, right? Things that maybe have accessibility issues or special construction conditions. I'm going to create an enlarged floor plan call out. So my call outs are located under, where are they located? Under view, okay? And you'll notice right here, I have a call out button. If I drop down, I have the ability to make a rectangle or sketch, you know, a custom shape, okay? So I'm going to click on rectangle, click, and it immediately kind of like my properties dialog box goes blank. And essentially what Revit is waiting for me to do is to encircle the area I want to make larger, okay? So I'm going to zoom in here. I'm going to click, move in the direction I want to go, click again, and there's my enlarged floor plan call out. Okay, I'm going to click on that boundary. I can click and hold on the grip, drag it around, make it look nice and lovely like we make them, right? I can take this boundary, click on it. I can click on this grip and, oops, drag it out, right? Okay, this boundary essentially is the outer edge of that enlarged floor plan, okay? If I click on that enlarged call out and I look over here in my properties dialog box, if I come, now this is a little bit convoluted and I have to honestly sort of look for it every time. Oop, let me drag that over. Oop, too much. There we go. If I come all the way, once this is selected, right, and we've learned in Revit that you have to select things a lot of times to have them reveal properties about themselves, right? But if I come over here in my properties dialog box and I go all the way down here to the bottom, I want you to notice that there's a view name associated with that call out, okay? So when I created the call out, we have a, you know, a standard out of the box name that it generated. So it generated a name that said main level dimension plan, you know, dash call out 1. Great. And I also see that up here, okay? If I want to rename that to something like enlarged bathroom plan, right? I could right click, rename, and we'll call this enlarged bathroom plan, enter, okay? Now I have my enlarged bathroom plan. When I double click on it, just like, let me close out that other view, let me get these side by side. I know, right? WT, we're talking Revit speak now, right? WT, window tile, WT, calling out my keystrokes. So we have the enlarged plan here, right? And we have our actual enlarged plan over here, right? This is at a 3/8 of an inch scale. If I, click on this, I could make it like, let's make it 1/2 of an inch is equal to a foot. There we go. Okay. There's my floor plan. TL, thin lines, right? That takes off the line weights, and I can view my walls. These look like I've made odd wall types. Anyway, but there's my enlarged plan. And you may look at it and think, well, I look at these and this one's zoomed in further, right? But if I zoom out, like, what's, the big deal? Well, how are they different, right? And we'll really see the difference when I go to a sheet like AE 101, right? And I grab my enlarged bathroom plan and drag it over here, click, and you can see how much larger that is, right? And that will just allow me to add kind of additional detail that's needed, right? So the tags will be larger, they'll be more evident, you'll be able to add floor patterns and all the plumbing fixtures and all that good stuff, okay? All right, so those are enlarged floor plans. I'm going to go back to this enlarged bathroom plan. Where is it? There it is. Okay. I want you to realize that this area right here is a crop region. Okay. So this crop region, WT, where is it? I'm going to take it off the sheet. WT. This crop region corresponds to the boundary of this area, right? So if I drag it in, you see it drags in over there. They have a relationship, right? So I can somewhat sort of start to like define the boundary and make it perfect the way I want it to be. Of course, you want your tags to look wonderful. Okay. Oop, we don't like that. Okay, there we go. Okay. If I click on this again, right, not only can I right click over here and change the name of this call out there, right, but I can come down here to my enlarged bathroom plan and I can click on this down here and
Oh, good, because that's what I started doing on accident.
yes, nope, you can do that, hit apply, and there you go, right? So now this is enlarged bathroom, okay? So there's a couple of different ways you can do it. Just like any other view, right? This enlarged bathroom view, you have a coarseness level, you have a visual style, you have a scale associated with it, right? If I click on this little light bulb, right? I don't have any hidden items in here, but if, oh, I have one, things will reveal themselves. Okay, just to remind you. Okay, so that is a call out, and this is a floor plan call out, and it's a floor plan call out because I was in a floor plan view when I created it. All right. Okay. Let's see. I'm going to come back to call out too because I said enlarged floor plan in this case, but it was actually somewhat generic because I can use my call out in a lot of different places. So I can use my call out for an enlarged floor plan. And when I'm in floor plan view and I create a call out, it sorts that call out under floor plans. Okay. If I go to a ceiling view and I create a call out, it sorts that into ceiling. If I go to my elevations and I create a call out, right, it's going to sort that into elevations. Okay. All right. Let's see here. Hold on. Okay. So let's talk about creating, I'm gonna kind of move away from callouts, and I want to talk about how to create sections and interior elevations, and then we'll circle back around to callouts again and create some detail callouts on some of these other views. Okay. All right. So let's add a section to our floor plan, right? This is like really a great tool in AutoCAD because sections, you're welcome, sections are really labor intensive to generate in AutoCAD, right? If you don't know that already, which a lot of you do. Never heard of it?
Never
Lucky
heard of
ducky, huh? All right, so let's create a section. If I come up here to view, right next to call out, I have section, right? I also, under my quick access toolbar up here, I have section up in my quick access, right? So you'll see me coming up here, click, section. I click where I want the section to begin. I click where I want it to end, and that is generating a section, okay? Now if I click on that, the stem of that section, there's a few things you're gonna notice, okay? Number one, this marker, you know, it's a section, and a section is a vertical cut of any architectural element, right? as opposed to a floor plan. A floor plan is a horizontal cut of a building, right? So a section is a horizontal cut. So this section starts here, it cuts that building vertically. Okay, it hits all of these elements that that blue line touches. We have these little grips right here that will flip the section, right? Hours and hours of work, boop, just like that. It's really nice, right? I'm going to drag my section. I want to move it. Oh, let me just drag it down through this doorway, right? How easy was that? Okay, I'm going to flip these back up. So I have the ability to flip. I have the ability to turn off the marker right here. Click. The marker turns into a tail. Click. Click. There we go. It's back over on that side. So I have the ability to change where the marker is going to be, right? I could put it on both sides if I wanted. Okay. I also have the ability to split it. So if I click on that little elbow right there, click. If there's something that you don't want to, you know, obscure, like this tag or something, I can split the marker, right? And I can drag these down a little bit so that, you know, something's not obscured, right? It doesn't mean it leaves a gap in the section. It just means that it allows me to leave it, you know, an area for something else to appear.
How do you make it connect back up again?
Oh, I clicked it a second time. So click once, click twice,
Oh, okay.
and it goes back. Isn't that amazing? So I have the ability also to control the depth, right? This depth, it cuts here and it goes to about right there, which, you know, we probably want to show that back wall in this section, right? So I can grab this little marker, drag, 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 and now the section goes from here to here, and I view it this direction, right? And I can see from this cut line all the way to there, right? So that's a little bit about the section marker itself. If I look over here in the project browser, right, I'll see that I have a sections area. And if I open that up and click, click, there is my building section. So easy. Isn't that nice, right?
I love that.
Hours of work, right?
That'd be awesome.
Okay.
Imagine doing that by hand.
I know, right?
AutoCAD can do that.
AutoCAD is like by hand now these days, right?
There's no money, but with pencil.
Oh, I know. Hours, right?
So in this section part, could you like move walls and it would move it
Mhm.
with everything else too? Huh?
Yeah. Yeah, so if you're looking at this, you're designing it, and you're like, oh, that window is not great, right? I can move it over, and it does move everything in the floor plan view, right? Everything in this model has a relationship, so when we move it in one place, it gets moved in the other place. I know, isn't that nice?
Wow.
Okay, so I can grab my markers just like in any other view, and I can kind of pull them out, right? I've got my crop region where I can turn it on and off, right? I can grab these, bring them in a little bit if I want to. Of course.
Life gets so superfluous.
I know, right? Like, why am I waste now? I know, it's just so nice. Yeah. Okay, so I've got my section view. It doesn't have a roof. It doesn't have floor joist yet. We'll get there, of course, right? But the general basic outline is there. Once we get a little further in the semester, we'll start talking about detail items, right? So we can start adding little things like studs at the base and the top, right? Like the top plate and bottom, the sill plate, right? So we'll be able to do that later. But just the generation of these, I mean, is such a time saver, right? I think Revit is becoming so widely used that people take for granted now how much time it used to take to generate all this stuff. Okay, so I'm going to create another section, and we'll make it, this time it will go through, we'll drag it through there, right? And Revit is somewhat smart, and it does somewhat know that maybe the field division needs to go from here all the way to there, right? Okay, so I can double click on that section, and there she is, right? Oh, we've got align AL, right? There you go, looks wonderful. And there's our building section. Again, you know, I just like to make sure that like all of my things look wonderful, and I turn my crop region off. Even though it doesn't print, I still kind of like to be able to visualize what the finished drawing is going to be, you know, looking like on the sheet. So I drag it in. Okay. All right, so these building sections, right, we're going to keep them fairly fundamental at this point. We don't have a lot of skills yet to make them much more detailed. other than to, you know, throw them on a sheet and then later on we'll add a bunch of good detail to make them look a little bit more real. Our sections are here. We can right click and rename them whatever we want to rename them. You know, longitudinal or transverse, whatever. Section 1, section 2. It's great. I can come down here, I can right click and create a new sheet. And Arch D, here's my sheet, and I grab my section 1, click, section 2, we're gonna, ooh, it's not wanting to catch the midline of it. I like the smaller section on top anyway. Ooh, they're not the same scale. This is 3/16, I don't like that. Click, click. Medium, and then I'm going to change the scale of it to 1/4. Looks a little better. Click, click out of the viewport, right? Remember all this stuff? I click it, I bring it down here. Escape, escape. If I click on the viewport one time, click, right? I can have this grip pop up. It appears. And I can click and hold and drag that out to the end of my drawing, okay? If I hit escape, and I just click on the line, no little grip pops up, right? So this is kind of something I get asked all the time. Where's that little grip that I can, you know, so I can fix my line? Well, you need to click on the viewport, right? Grab it and, oop, not do that, undo, right? Grab that and bring it back in, okay? Click on this little guy, it's the wrong scale, right? So I'm gonna click, click, engage the viewport, come down to my scale, change it to 1/4, click, click out of it, grab it, line it up the best I can over here. I don't know, we want our grid lines to line up somewhat, right? I'm going to grab my view title, drag it over, it lines up with the one below it, click on the viewport, drag this little guy out, right? You'll always see me immediately try, you know, and in Revit, here's one of my pet peeves about Revit. I can't snap to a whole lot of things in my sheet, and I hate that. In AutoCAD, I can snap to anything in my sheet, and I get things perfectly lined up and above each other, and everything looks really nice and neat, and it's perfect, right? But if I wanted to line up this, click MV, and I wanted to maybe, like, I guess I can snap to the, here's the one bad example. I guess I can snap to the exact endpoint of that, but other things, like walls or other, you know, annotation objects, it's really hard to get everything quite lined up. If I bring text onto my sheet, I can't snap to areas on my viewport, right? And so it makes it really hard to get everything perfectly lined up, okay? That, yep.
When you're like moving that up and down like slowly, are you using your arrow keys? Like, is that how that
Yep, just like that, like a click and I'm nudging it.
Yeah.
Yep, I'm just nudging it back and forth. Yep. Another thing that makes AutoCAD medieval, right? Why can't we use the arrow keys? Okay, and again, I was saying this before, but like you can, I really start to line things up because, you know, clients pop in all the time. They really do, and they want you to print something off real quick for them. And if I've got things like nice and neat and lined up, it just makes the process of printing or sending something over a lot easier, right? Okay, so that's my section creation, really. Like for now, for us, that's really all there is to it, right? And that's great. I mean, this is super time saver, you know? Let's see, we are on AE 104. Let's not forget our title block. It's unnamed at this point. So I'm going to click here. It's unnamed. We will call this building sections. Wonderful. Okay. So I've got a bunch of information here. I've got my sections created. You know, we've created floor plans and we did call outs of floor plans. I have sections now. How do I create call outs on a section, right? If I go to my section view here, click, click. I'm going to go back up to view and I'm going to use the call out. I'm going to use a call out on a section to generate a wall section, right? So in a set of drawings, we have an overall building section, and the overall building section gives a general picture of the entire building, right? So generally how the structure works, generally this floor to ceiling heights, right? Generally, You know, it shows where the vertical circulation is, right, where the stairs are. Generally, it shows there's a basement and there's a foundation system and upper walls and a roof and trusses and things like that. Gives a good general overview of the project, right? It's not meant for copious amounts of detail, right? It's a good general overall view. Where we get the detail in our sections is when we zoom in, when we create callouts like wall sections and then sectional details, essentially, okay? So to create a wall section, right, for example, like at this outer wall, right, we want to know how the footing connects to the foundation, how the foundation connects to the joists, how the joists and this whole area, the wall base function, how the wood stud or whatever kind of system comes down and rests there, how eventually when we get a roof, how the soffit will work, right? So we need to zoom into that to see, you know, a better level of detail than just this overall building section. To create a call out, again, very easy. I click on call out, rectangle. I somewhat stay away from sketch, and I think it's like my my weariness from AutoCAD and polygon viewports that never work, right? Or never used to work. I get scared of them, and I feel like this is the same type of trick. So I tend to stay away from it, but sketch, we'll talk about sketching one of these in a second. So I click on rectangle, again I click, and I drag my call out over the area that I want to enlarge, right? In this case it's a section. I click on my enlarge section view, I somewhat bring these little guys in, I click on my tag and I drag it over using my mouse, right? There we go. Okay, and now I have another call out, right? Another level of detail for this set of drawings, right? So we're going to the very broad, which is the overall building plan or overall building section, to the more detailed, which is the wall section, to the most detailed, which will be a detail on the wall section, right? Okay, my wall section, my sectional call out shows up under my building sections here, of course. I double click on it and there it is, right? Very lovely. I can turn my crop region off so I don't see it. I can drag in, again, just out of habit, I can drag in my little tags here. Oop, this side needs to be drug out a little bit. So we'll bring that out. There we go, looks lovely. Oop, maybe a little too far. Yes, we adjust all of this, right? Here we go. And there's our wall section, okay? Our overall building sections were like at 1/4 of an inch maybe. These are at 1/2 inch, right? So they're double the size. I'm going to double click on one of my sheets here. Click, click, building sections. And I think I'm going to, let's change the organization of these sheets, right? Which is pretty easy and we haven't done that before. So let's change the organization of some of these sheets. I'm going to create a new sheet. And we'll call this AE105 and we'll call this wall sections. Looks great. Okay. And I'm going to grab my wall section that I just created here. Oh, I don't like it being called section 1 call out 1, right? So I'm going to right click, rename it, call it wall section 1. Okay. I'm going to drag it over, let go, just like on any other normal project. Click. And there's my wall section. I know, Jake just can't even believe it over here. He's like laughing, what is happening? There's my wonderful wall section. If I don't like the scale of it, I click on it very fast, right? And I'm gonna do, instead of a 1/2 inch, let's do 3/4. Click, click. Click on the viewport, drag that out. Oop, not all the way. There we go, we need it where we want it, right? And there's our wall section. Now the best part of this whole thing, let us not forget, right, is that on our sections, right, I go back to my section and this call out tells us where that's located in the set, right? This is the best thing about Revit is the coordination of the tags, right? If I were to move that, or rename it, it would show the new place where it's located or rename it, right? So this could be go from 1 to 2 and change, you know, whatever sheet it's on, which is really great. That's just the best part, right? Anytime, yeah, I just, the coordination in AutoCAD now, just, again, medieval. We'll use the term medieval, right? AutoCAD is good at a lot of things, but tag coordination is difficult. Okay, so we have our call out here, right? And let's say that I really like my call out on here, but I would like to have this section that it's referencing on the same sheet, right? But I already have that on a sheet over here. I have it on building sections, right? There it is. They may or may not fit on the same sheet together. I want you to notice that I have this little drop down right here. Click. And this area right here shows me, here's the title of the sheet, right? These two little drawings are dependent, or they're not dependent, but they're placed on that sheet, essentially, right? So what's nice about this system is, here's my sheet, click, click, right? And here are the two drawings on it, right? What's also really nice about this system is that if I want to take this wall section, number 1, and I want to drag it over to AE 105, I can click and hold, drag it down, highlight that sheet, let go, and it brings me to that sheet, and I can then click and place it on that sheet. Right? So moving them around is just a piece of cake. I'm nudging this with my arrows. Ooh, it's slightly too large. So I'm going to cheat a little bit. I'm going to turn my crop region back on. Why do we need all that extra space right there, right? We don't. For today at least. Click, click. Turn my crop region off. Click, click. Oh, click, click. I'm going to drag my levels in a little bit. Let's drag those in. Okay, click, click. Oh, click. Drag that little guy in. Click. Move it over. Ooh, maybe, right? Okay, did perfectly. Those levels don't quite line up. I'm hoping that maybe I can get my levels to line up a little bit easier. Rotate what? Can I rotate it? Like make it horizontal? I don't, well, I mean, in this case, I don't think that'd be very typical. You can rotate things on sheets, right? I can click on this and I can do rotation on sheet. It just doesn't work very well. And it's not something you would normally see on drawings, right? Control Z. But there's the section, right? There's the call out right there, and there's my wall section. Looks good. Right? Final level of detail on something like this is going to be a sectional detail, right? Where I have my wall section, I have my regular section, section number 1. I'm going to rename it real quick. Well, not really rename, oops, not rename it so much as make it caps. Okay. Now I want to create a call out on my wall section, right? The final level of detail is a detail, essentially, right? So details get the closest view of an object, and you see the most detail in them, right? It's kind of the best way to say it. So I can come back up here to call out again. Click. What's happening? Call out. There we go. And I can grab whatever area needs a little bit further definition, right? So generally on a wall section, it's going to be the wall base. It'll be the soffit detail, whatever that ends up being, right? And it'll be probably wider than that, but then we have our foundation base right there. Click, drag my little markers out. Again, we kind of want them to be nice and lined up over here, makes things very readable. There we go, right? I'm going to click on this again. There we go. Oop. No crooked lines. And we've got one more, which will likely end up being a lot bigger than it's being shown. Something like that, right? Okay. Final level of detail, right? So these are at 3/4 of an inch. I'm going to enter this view here, click, click, And there's an even better, an even larger detail view, right? So these can be something like 1.5 inches is equal to a foot, or 3 inches is equal to a foot, maybe even better. I'm going to put it on my sheet and see what fits. We'll just kind of size it according to that for now. I'm going to go over to my sheet. Let's see, wall sections. So I have my overall building section, which gives a general definition, my wall section, right, that gives a little further detail, and then my actual building details. Oh no! My whole, look at that, doesn't it just kill you? People squeezing details on sheets that don't fit. Ugh. Okay, well, oh, it's terrible to look at, right? There we go. Oop. Just delete it. we don't need that detail anyway, right? We don't need that detail anyway. Click, click. Okay. So now I can take my details and I can drag them onto the sheet, right? So I come up here to my sections and I have call out 1, 2, and 3, right? I don't remember what order I did them. 1, 2, 3. And I can call, well, let's look. This is call out 2, so we can call this section, maybe section detail, soffit, or what's the word I'm looking for? I keep saying soffit, eave detail, right? And this is going to be the wall base. So click here, section detail, wall base, right? And then we've got our final detail here, which is section detail, foundation, base. Click, click out, right? And so now I have these 3 sectional details. The eave, or let me start with which one was it that I had? The foundation, wasn't it, that I was looking at? Drag that over. Ooh, it's gigantic. Maybe a tiny bit too big, right? Easy enough to fix. Click, click, right? 3 inches is equal to a foot. Maybe we take that to 1.5 inches. Okay, that's much better. When, you know, and some, I mean, this, depending on the type of project you do, sometimes you have these on the same page. Likely they're not going to be on the same page, right? You have detail sheets that have just details on them. So this is pretty atypical. But these details, you'll fit, you know, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, maybe 12 to 16 details on a sheet, right? So, you know, you look at them and you want to size them according to that size that they'll print, or how many you can fit on that page. Click, click. I turn off my crop region again, right? And I would add the detail that I needed to this, right? So there's 1. Now I know this is 1.5 inches. So I can likely come back over here, my wall base detail. You know, we're constantly refining these, right? This process is a little different than maybe what we've done before, the whole revise it idea, but it's not that dissimilar either, right? I generally create the detail, I generally get it the way I want it to look. I go back in, I kind of refine or revisit, you know, the scale of it, the crop region, you know, different components of it. I kind of make it look nice, right? So this one is 1.5 inches is equal to a foot. I turn off my crop region. And when we get a little bit further, we'll have things like break lines and detail components that we'll talk about, right? But we will take our wall base detail, drag it over here, place it there, and we have one more, which is the eave, which is going to be too big for the sheet, so I'm not even going to do it, right? But you guys get the idea. We can place these here, right, so they work. And again, the best thing about this, check that out, right? It coordinates all of the different locations of all of these things through the entire set, right? And I just think it's really amazing because these drawing sets get gigantic, right? I mean, you can have 30 pages of wall sections and it's like nothing, you know, for Revit to sit and be able to coordinate all these things. Okay.
Does it also add when you publish this in PDF? So like you can double click in the PDF.
No, not in the PDF, but Bluebeam will. Yeah,
Yeah, that's what I
How
Right.
much have you can make it with double click?
in a PDF. Huh? Maybe is that brand new?
Well, no, you just have to link all the fields to go, but this is way easier. You
I would say
don't have
that's
to mess with
that's
fields.
way too. Oh, in AutoCAD, you mean? Yeah, no, no. I mean, it sounds like they can, but I don't do that. No. But maybe.
Like when you have 800 sheets.
Right. You want to be able to click to the yeah.
You just click on call out and it takes you, same like you do it here.
Yeah. I guess I just haven't actually tried it in Adobe, to be honest, because it I've done it in Bluebeam. So
I was surprised.
yeah, huh. I'm gonna have to try that.
Ask Jeff.
Yeah, I don't know if I want to ask Jeff. He gives way too complicated answers. That's funny. All right. So we've created our building, our floor plan drawings. We've created enlarged floor plans, right? We've created sections, overall sections. We've created wall sections. We've created sectional details, right? One other type of view that I want to talk about today are interior elevations, okay? I'm going to go to my enlarged bathroom plan here, and we'll talk about interior elevations. And before I do that, I'm just going to sneak ahead a little bit. Let's see. Components. Let's see if did we load some components in here, like a toilet? No. I'm going to load a couple of components in here. Plumbing, fixtures, architectural, fixtures, water closet.
Oh, Don wants a urinal in there.
Heck yeah.
Oh my gosh. That's terrible. This is going to be an awful little bathroom. Okay, there you go. And we are going to...
Nothing I like more than being right up on the door. That way you can hold the handles like get down for me. Yeah.
You're risking a kick to the door if you hold the handle shut. Even with the threats of murder through the door, right? Oh, I can't even stand it. I can't even stand it. It's still too fresh.
Even when the kids aren't home, I still get the dog under the door.
Okay, we'll do a freestanding tub. There we go. Oh, it's tiny. Okay, I just want something to elevate, essentially. That is a terrible placement for the bath, for the...
Good looking toilet.
Okay.
Good looking.
All right, interior elevation. So we're going to go back to view, and we have elevation here. We click on elevation. We have building elevation, right? Which are they're going to be views of the outside of the building, right? If you were standing out front. And what we want to do is use the drop down and choose interior elevation, right? So this will be a view on the inside of the house. I place my little marker. It somewhat senses what wall I want to elevate when I get near it, right? I click, and it places it. Now, this is an out-of-the-box, let me just fix it real quick. It's an out-of-the-box setting. I don't like it. We like that one a little better. Okay. But essentially, right, I've got this marker. I click on it. Click. Oop, not that fast. I click on it, and I still get, I get this blue line, right? It looks somewhat like the sectional line, but it doesn't, you don't have the markers on the top. I get the blue line that indicates where that section is going to start. So it's going to start here, and it's going to end here. So we want to pull that out maybe a little bit, right? This is going to be the depth of that section. And really for an interior elevation, you're just looking to illustrate inside wall to inside wall, and we don't need to see anything past that wall, right? We're just looking right here to see what's happening. When I click on that to view it, here's the one odd thing. In fact, you know what? I'm going to take a second right here and Google this, because I have just had this question asked me about 3 times. maybe that's it. Well, here's my question I've been asked, and it looks like there's not not a quick answer. But whenever I generate an interior elevation, I get kind of the extent of the building height, right? And let's see. Oh, 2'3". No, that's not it. And I was kind of briefly, when asked, I was kind of thinking through what would make, when I draw an interior elevation and I am on main level, why does it shoot, 3 floors below and 5 floors above? It doesn't make a whole lot of sense. Yours stayed on that same level? Huh, that's interesting. I don't know why mine would be different. I need to look into it a little bit more. It's not a gigantic issue, but it's somewhat annoying, right? I'm thinking it may have something to do with, like, there's a default height, like with walls, right? It's 20 feet, and you can change that. I'm thinking there's a default height hidden somewhere in here that I just have never, like, cared to look for. 2 foot, that's not it. Anyway, I'll look for it, but graphic display. Nope, okay, anyway, back. So this creates my interior elevation. When I click on it, right, just like the section, just like the floor plan markers, right, I have a view name right here. This is an elevation. It's a version of the elevation series, right? So, no, that's a lie. Sorry. It is an elevation, but they do break these out. Sorry. I was going to say they lumped them in, but they don't. So I get an interior elevation area now here. So this is 2A. It's the only one that's been generated, right? When I click on it, I can come down here and click on it and say, if it's bathroom number 104, bathroom east elevation, right? When I click on it, I get my elevation. And again, this one is, it's a little bit odd. I'm gonna have to investigate why it does that, but again, this is, how many of you worked in an office before, an architectural office? Has anybody had to do these? Man, these things, you can have 30 sheets of interior elevations in a project, right? And so it's like, I mean, by the time you trim enough tile out of a toilet for the, for the 8 millionth time, it's like, this is heaven, it's just amazing. So these are generated fairly easily. The only problem that we tend to have with interior elevations is that, and let me just turn the crop region back on, is that this crop region here, it somewhat snaps to objects. Do you see that? It kind of snaps to, like, the boundary of the ceiling. It somewhat will snap, sometimes. It will somewhat maybe snap to the edge of the wall. Not very good at this instance. I guess maybe my point is that there is not a very good boundary on interior elevations. So while they generate the geometry very quickly, kind of the execution is messy still. And so we had to develop a workaround using a filled region to get this to look completely right. So what we end up doing with the interior elevations is extending the crop region just a little bit past it, and then we have to mask out the rest of it. Okay, but we're not that advanced yet, right? We can talk about that a little bit later, but this is how you're going to generate the views, right? So if somebody says generate an interior elevation, you place a marker, you can adjust the crop region, you can adjust the scale, get things looking the way they should. Okay, the one really nice thing about this interior elevation marker is that it's multi-sided. So if I click on it, not only am I able to see the east elevation, but if I click up here, I click here, and I click there, right? All of those views generate. So now I have my north, east, south, and west. I'm going to click. Oh, that one was very nice and lovely. Look at that. I still don't understand that that's kind of a, anyway, it's a quandary. Oh, but that one, okay, right. I've got a few things to look at there. And then we've got our south elevation looking right at the tub. It's beautiful. Nice and cropped right to the edge of that view.
It's a nice little window.
There you go, right? You like to point out all of these oddities.
Saying. You standing there, your poor head in the shower, your business just out there for the neighbors.
There you go. They shouldn't be looking anyway, right?
That's my thought.
Yeah. Nobody will be able to see him, right? Got the hobos in our neighborhood to worry about. All right. So there are all of our 4 interior elevations. Now, let's put them on a sheet, of course, right? Because we draw all these. Oh, although now when I look at this, I think, oh gosh, these are not named very nicely. So I go back to my, where were those placed? There we go, my enlarged bathroom plan. So we'll call this one, we'll just make it simple, right? This is the north, we have the east, which we already named. We're gonna do the south, and we have the west elevation. Okay, now let's pull them onto sheets. So I'm gonna create a sheet down here, right click, new sheet, and grab my little interior elevations. Let's see, we'll start with north. And we've got east with the long name. Oh, there we go, that's what I'm looking for right there. They kind of line up midpoint. And that midpoint snap will work when you're drawing elevations generally in the same room, because you have same floor to ceiling height generally in most rooms, right? So that is one nice way of lining things up. Oh, I'm going to grab my south and drag it over. South and west, drag it over, bring it down here. Okay, so again, I would just come around here and I would start somewhat lining these things up. Click. Oop, not that. Got a little too. There we go. There we go. Okay, there we go. Looks good. And again, the best thing about this whole system, right, is that when I go to my interior, or I look at my floor plan, for example, my enlarged bathroom plan again, right? Oh, it's very nicely tagged, right? Which we all love. All right, let's see. Okay, just a couple more things tonight. This is kind of like a 3. We might actually not get to floors on Wednesday. Poor Paul. We may end up looking at, well, we might get started on it, but we may end up just kind of focusing on the title block next time. We don't need floors and roof check. We have plenty of time for that, for the final project. Just kidding. Okay, so I want to start talking about making your views look the way you want them to look, right? Because I'm sure that you're maybe finding that as you're working through this, or as you're pulling things onto sheets, or, you know, getting ready to print things, that stuff does not always look great in Revit. And this is one of its biggest weaknesses, is all of your views have independent view settings right now. So if I change something in one view, it doesn't correlate to another view, right? So there's not a standard uniformity. Things turn on and off at will. Like, I'm not joking. You will change something, get it all looking wonderfully, and then somebody else will come in, add a few families, change a few dimensions, and it doesn't look the way it should, right? So visual consistency, although the coordination is nice, is a big problem in Revit, right? So having what we call view templates makes our job a little bit easier in Revit, okay? And a view template, we're not going to set one up, but I'm going to introduce the idea today. A view template will allow you, let me come over here to like my elevation view. Let's see, view template, none. So I click on my view template here, okay? And what this will allow me to do is it will allow me to essentially set my view up with these settings and you go in here and you say, I want all the walls turned on. I want the elevation tags on, but I don't want the dimensions. So I'm going to check mark no for dimensions. I want it to be at a 1/4 inch scale. I want the crop region turned off. I want it, you know, any sort of visual setting that you want to be seen on a specific view, you set here. And then when you are finished with a drawing, you come over here to your view template. Instead of none, you check the one you want applied to it, you hit OK, and it applies that visual setting to that floor plan, right? In this case, it made it an 1/8 inch scale, coarse detail level. If I look at my visual graphics, right, they're all grayed out. I can't change them because the view template is controlling them now, right? We're not going to set one up tonight. I'm going to hit undo to undo that. What I did was not appropriate for an enlarged floor plan, right? But for a regular floor plan, let's go to, this was just out of the box. Dimension plan. Oh, look at that. I'll turn that off. If I go to my view template, click, and I say, I want this to look like an architectural floor plan, right? And I hit OK. It changes all the visual settings, and it will do this exact same, all these changes exactly the same on every single floor plan that I apply this to, right? So professionally, when you're working, you'll have maybe 10 of these view templates set up, right? One for the overall floor plan, the dimension plan, the finished floor plan, the interior, exterior elevations, you know, any sort of drawing details, whatever. You'll have these all set up so that when you're all finished with the project, right before you print, you apply these all to the different views and it turns, you know, appropriate things on and off, right? Because again, chasing these visual settings through Revit is terrible. It's just terrible. Okay, let's see. We're not going to get into setting it up, but yeah. All right, one more thing, and then we'll call it a night. And I think what I'm going to do is I actually have one more thing I want to talk about with regard to printing and views and sheets and setting that all up, right? And that's the title block. I want to show you how to customize the title block. So I think we'll talk about that on Wednesday instead of floors. And we'll kind of end our little series of printing on Wednesday, and I'll give you an assignment on Wednesday that has to do with all those things. Sound pretty good? For your nice long weekend, you can do your homework over your nice long weekend. Okay, let's talk about view range. What's that? No. Let's talk about view range. And this is going to be another visual setting. And this is probably one of the most complicated things to understand in Revit. Let me just show you here, view range, okay? In any view, whether it's well, I can't say any view because I don't think we have them in elevations. Okay, so we don't have view ranges in drawings that are vertical in nature. But any floor plan or roof plan or enlarged plan or call out, plan view call out, you'll have a view range, okay? And you're gonna have to adjust your view range all the time. And essentially, what a view range is, I'm gonna hit edit here. And this is the best little graphic. Like very literally, they added this graphic to illustrate what this does because it was so confusing before. So essentially, this is a per view setting, right? So when I apply this to my floor plan, it only applies it to my floor plan. It doesn't apply it to my roof plan or ceiling plan or anything else. But this establishes what I can see in my floor plan, right? So if I look at this little graphic here, I have what we call the primary view range. And that means that my floor plan is cut at 4 feet. I can see 0 feet below that 4-foot mark. So from main level, right? So if this is my main level right here, from my main level floor, okay, up to number 2 is that 4 foot, okay? Up here, this number 1, the top offset, this is how far my room, my quote assigned room, if I had a room assigned to this space, that's how far the volume of my room would extend, right? So if you're a mechanical engineer, you're using Revit, they calculate, you know, I don't know all the abbreviations, like cubic feet per air per second or whatever, right? They calculate volumes of airflow into room and different things like that. So they want to know volumes of rooms. So if your room goes from here, not all the way to the ceiling, it's not very effective, right? So you want to, know that your room extends to the, the underside of the ceiling or whatever. But, yep.
Does that also include like the outline detail of the cover cabinetry, things like that?
How you view it?
Yeah.
Yes, this is going to help you view those things. Yeah, so that's a good question. So, if, for example, my cut line is at 4 feet, right? Anything below 4 feet I can view in the floor plan, but anything above I can't, like upper millwork, right? So I'm going to use the view range, and I'm going to change that to be able to view different items in my floor plan, essentially, right? So if my windows are the sill is at 4 foot 1 inch, and the cut plane's at 4 foot, those windows are going to be slightly above the floor plane, and you're going to be looking at your model thinking, I have 400 windows in here, where are they, right? And it's because your view range won't allow you to see them. So this is something, I just wanted to introduce you to the idea so that when you're drawing and you're not seeing things, this might be why. So we have our cut plane, which is 4 feet, it's this mark. We have our bottom, which is this mark. We have our upper level, which is our top view, which is this mark. And then we have a view depth below that finished floor, right, which is number 4, which is this depth here. So if I, for example, was on my main level, but I wanted to see the footings below the main level for whatever reason, I would have to extend my view depth down 9 feet, -9 feet, so that I could then see that, those footings 9 feet below my main level, okay? So while this does give you, it gives you a high level of customization, right? It's a big pain in the neck. It's a big pain in the neck. It sounds so simple when you look at this it looks simple when you look at this diagram, right? And it's not too bad in a floor plan view, but when you get like into a reflected ceiling plan where it's opposite, right? It gets confusing. When you get in roof plans, it's a little bit deceiving. So, and we'll talk about those things when we get there. But if there's something in your drawings that you're trying to view and you're not seeing it, it might be a view range issue, okay? Okay, I feel like I've been talking forever. All right, that is all I had for tonight. I'm gonna stop recording here.